very good afternoon to you. This is TV Sapienza transmitting on Star Times Channel 260. Today is Tuesday, the 15th of April 2025. My name is Joe Ibo. In our news headlines this afternoon, the Anambra State Commissioner of Police, CP Ikoye Orutugu, has unveiled an operation to tackle kidnapping and other violent crimes across the state. The Registrar of the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, Professor Ishakoloede, has advised newly established tertiary institutions across the country to adhere to rules and regulations guiding admissions. The death toll in the attack on Zike Kimaba community in Bassa local government area of Plateau State has risen to 53. And on the foreign scene, U.S. President Donald Trump has blamed the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky for starting the war with Russia. Now the details of the news. The Anambra State Commissioner of Police, CP Ikoye Orutugu, has unveiled Operation Udogachi Zero Kidnapping and Other Violent Crimes to tackle kidnapping and other violent crimes across the state. Urutugu, who did the unveiling at the Amobia Bridge along the Enugu-Onitsha Expressway Oka yesterday, said the purpose is to let the Anambra and residents know the efforts the police are making to nip in the serious crimes like armed robbery, kidnapping and other related situations, especially within this Easter period and beyond. He said the Operation Udogachi Zero Kidnapping comprises the police, the Army from 302 Artillery Regiment, the Navy from the Naval Outpost, the Department of State Service, the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, Nigeria Immigration Services, the Nigeria Correctional Service, the Federal Road Safety Corps, the Anambra State Vigilante, and most importantly, Anambra residents and its teeming populace who have resolved to work with the security. According to the Commissioner of Police, the security forces are now more motivated as the operation will give them a more coordinated approach to reclaiming the public space. He added that while the police seek the cooperation of residents of Anambra State, he also advised the operatives to be civil to members of the public. A chief magistrate in the Rivers State Judiciary, Ejike George, has tendered his resignation from service, citing unease over the appointment of a sole administrator to oversee the affairs of the state. George, who disclosed that he has put in 16 years in judiciary, already said the appointment of a sole administrator is tantamount to a quasi-military administration. George's resignation was contained in a letter dated April 11, 2025 and addressed to the Honorable Chief Judge of Rivers State through the Secretary of the Rivers State Judicial Service Commission. George expressed dismay over the direction of the governance of Rivers State, which he said is alien and antithetical to the values of the legal profession. He said his decision to resign is informed by his discomfort with the recent appointment of a quasi-military administration to run the affairs of a modern state like Rivers. The Governing Council of the Federal University, Oye Ekiti, Foye, has suspended Professor Abayomi Fashina as Vice Chancellor of the institution and appointed the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academics, Professor Lubumi Shitu, as the Acting Vice Chancellor for a period of 6 months. This was disclosed in a statement by the university's registrar and secretary to the council, Mr. Mufutau Ibrahim, following the council's 7th emergency meeting, which was held virtually. During the meeting, the embattled Vice Chancellor, Professor Abayomi Fashina, requested to proceed on his accumulated annual leave, a request the council approved. However, sources reveal the move followed mounting pressure stemming from a sexual harassment allegation involving the Vice Chancellor. A source who attended the meeting and spoke on condition of anonymity said that Professor Fashina, whose tenure is set to end in August this year, appealed to the council to approve his leave rather than imposing a direct suspension. The university community and stakeholders are closely monitoring developments as the matter continues to attract attention at both institutional and federal levels. The Registrar of the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, Professor Ishak Oloyede, has advised newly established tertiary institutions across the country to adhere strictly to rules and regulations guiding admissions. Professor Oloyede, who was speaking at a meeting with heads of the newly established tertiary institutions in Abuja, called for full compliance of the over 80 new institutions. He warned them against illegal admissions, saying there will be no room for regularization. He stressed that all admissions must be routed through the Central Admissions Processing System, or CAPS, strictly following due process. Professor Oloyede warned that any institution attempting to bypass this platform risks nullifying such admissions, adding that CAPS ensures transparency, fairness and integrity in admissions. The JAMB registrar explained that the aim of the forum was to integrate those institutions into the national admissions system, which aligns with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's vision to expand access to quality education. Professor William Quiris, the Vice Chancellor of the Federal University of Applied Sciences, Kachia, Kaduna State, said the meeting afforded them the opportunity to become acquainted with the workings and operations of the Central Admissions Processing System, or CAPS, and the Integrated Brochure and Syllabus System, IBAS, through which institutions communicate with JAMB. Dr. Uche Oba, the Director of Colleges at the Ministry of Education, also used the opportunity to point out some criteria set by the National Universities Commission that must be followed by the new institutions. The death toll in the attack on Zike Kimapa community in Basa local government area of Plateau State has risen to 53. Initial reports gave the figure at 47, but a source close to the State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA, said more bodies were recovered after the villagers combed surrounding villages. Several others were also wounded in the incident, which occurred on Sunday night. The National Publicity Secretary, Irigwe Development Association, Samuel Jugo, confirmed that the 51 persons killed were given a mass burial yesterday amidst tears and wailing by relations and other sympathizers who thronged the burial site. It was gathered that the gunmen in large numbers rode into the area on motorbikes at about 11:32 p.m. on Sunday and went on a killing rampage till the early hours of yesterday, killing no fewer than 53 persons. The marauders, suspected to be Fulani herdsmen, were said to be going from house to house, killing their victims. They also burnt their houses, and several others were wounded in attempts to escape. Those who sustained fatal gunshot wounds are currently being treated at the Plateau State Specialist Hospital and Jos University Teaching Hospital. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has expressed deep sorrow over the recent outbreak of violence in Plateau State, which claimed the lives of more than 50 residents. Bayo Onanuga, the Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, said in a statement yesterday that the president condemned the tragic bloodshed and extended heartfelt condolences to Governor Caleb Mutfwang, the Plateau State government, and the affected communities. President Tinubu urged Governor Mutfwang to be more proactive in his efforts to end the prolonged crisis and build enduring peace in Plateau State. He also called on all community, spiritual, and political leaders, both within and beyond Plateau, to work together to break the cycle of retaliatory attacks that have long destabilized the region. President Tinubu said he had directed security agencies to conduct a thorough investigation into the crisis and ensure that those responsible for orchestrating the violence are held accountable. The member representing Nnewi South Constituency 1 in the Anambra State House of Assembly, Trudy Nonso Atuchukwu, has empowered over 300 fashion designers in his constituency with sewing machines, weaving machines, generators, pressing irons, mannequins, and cash gifts. The empowerment intervention, which took place on Sunday at the Umudim Ultramodern Hall in Amici, was attended by traditional leaders, political leaders, and youth groups in the constituency and aimed at enhancing productivity, creating jobs, and increasing the income of several families. According to Honorable Atuchukwu, The gesture was among a series of empowerment programs and interventions lined up to demonstrate his commitment towards the welfare and well-being of his constituents, as well as supporting previous graduates of Governor Chukwuma Soludo's One Youth, Two Skills initiative. The APGA lawmaker said the beneficiaries were selected from the 21 wards in Nnewi after undergoing several training programs irrespective of their political or religious backgrounds. Some of the beneficiaries, including James Okuchukwu, Chidema Mesoma, and Selina Onyemoichi. The empowerment program was a realization of their lifetime dreams and aspirations. They promised to put the empowerment kits to good use, even as they expressed their gratitude to Honorable Trudy Atuchukwu for remembering them in their moments of need. The APGA lawmaker, who had organized a series of empowerment programs in the past, targeted at various segments in his constituency, including women, youths, and small businesses, among others, also called on the people of his constituency to continue in their show of support for the APGA-led administration under Governor Chukwuma Soludo, even as he said there was no vacancy at the government house ahead of the November 8th governorship election in Anambra State. Now this foreign news. U.S. President Donald Trump has blamed the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky for starting the war with Russia, a day after a massive Russian attack killed 35 persons and injured 117 others in Ukraine. The U.S. President said the Ukrainian leader shared the blame with Russian President Vladimir Putin for millions of people dead in the Ukrainian war. Speaking to reporters at the White House, Trump also blamed former U.S. President Joe Biden for the conflict. The U.S. president has repeatedly clashed with Zelensky since he returned to office this year and has previously appeared to blame Ukraine for starting the war. By contrast, the U.S. president has made efforts to improve relations with Moscow. In February, Washington voted with Moscow against a United Nations resolution that identified Russia as the aggressor in Russia's war against Ukraine. To end the Sapientia news at 1 p.m., a recap of the major headlines. The Anambra State Commissioner of Police, CP Ikoye Orutugo, has unveiled an operation to tackle kidnapping and other violent crimes across the state. The Registrar of the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, Professor Isha Kolede, has advised newly established tertiary institutions across the country to adhere strictly to rules and regulations guiding admissions. The death toll in the attack on Zike Kimapa community in Kwali district of Irigwe Chiefdom, Basa local government area of Plateau State, has risen to 53. And finally, from our foreign desk, U.S. President Donald Trump has blamed the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky for starting the war with Russia. That was the Sapientia news at 1 p.m. On behalf of the editorial and technical crew, I am Joe Igbo. Good afternoon and thanks for choosing TV Sapientia.